guys? Welcome back to another video after a very long time. I realize it's been several years since I posted a video on this channel. What happened was I ended up getting a job and I kind of gave up on the previous game idea that I had because I got a job and the pandemic happened and a lot of different reasons. But I have decided that I'm going to be making a game, and I've already spent hundreds of hours into it at this point. And the game I'm making is different than my previous design. My previous design of a game for Galactic Armada was one that had a storyline, and it was very big in scope and not really doable by one person. So I have basically reinvented the game in a way that I can do it by myself. I can build the entire game by myself and in a reasonable time frame, I believe. And what this game is going to be is it's going to be a space action combat shooter slash war simulation game. And it's going to be based around Risk. I don't know if you've ever played the game of Risk. Most people have, but it's a board game where you basically have different countries and continents, and it's a turn-based style game. You know, and so my idea for this game is where there is going to be a 2D space that has a board game. It's not going to be countries, obviously. It's going to be star systems. That'll be the difference. And you'll basically you'll gain armies just like you would in a Risk game in a similar fashion. It's not going to be exact to the same exact rules of Risk, but the style of gameplay as far as the board game part of it will be very similar to a game of Risk. Now, whenever the battles happen, you will be able to participate in them and influence the space battles, as well as pilot ships. You'll be able to pilot ships, and also you'll be able to lead the ships tactically during combat. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is a stress test. Okay, I'm stress testing the current systems, which is the ship, a very basic version of the ship AI, the pathfinding system, and the projectile weapon system and the turret system. As you can see, these ships here, they have turrets on them. And right now, there's 110 ships in this scene. Okay? And every single one of these fighter ships has a single turret on it. So if I were to pause the game and come up, if I can get close to one, I can show you that there is a turret on the ship. And my camera's moving a little bit fast here. But see the turret, it's right there. I have my mouse cursor turned off, but there is a turret on the top of every one of these little fighter ships. Now, most ships, not every single fighter class ship are of that size, such as a bomber or a gunship. Most gunships will have turrets, but a lot of fighters won't. But I'm stress testing all 100 ships with turrets. Okay. And there's also 10 battleship class ships in here that also have turrets. And there's 2 space stations, and there's 2 turrets on these space stations as well. And what you see, well, apparently I just messed it up. I don't have the pause system incorporated in my update loops at the moment. So it kind of messes up when I pause it. Anyway, they'll continue hunting each other down when those other ships get back in range. Okay. So anyway, Um, the space scenes in this game will have up to 120 ships in the scene, and that's a pretty massive scale for Unity. And a lot of work has to go into building the systems in a very performant focused way to do everything I want to do. There's a lot of sophisticated AI that I'm incorporating behind this. Every team will have an overall combat space AI, and every single individual agent, all the way down to turrets, will have their own individual AIs and situational awareness systems. So, one thing you need to notice is that the ship's turrets, they're not all going to target the single. Right now, the turrets are set to the target nearest ship, or target the nearest available target to that turret, not to the actual ship. Uh, and they will change targets as other targets become closer to the turret itself. And there's so much I could talk about right now in this very opening video. Um, I don't even know where to begin. uh, what I'm working on right now, I can just tell you what I'm working on right now is I just got the turret systems accurately hitting their targets, no matter what the range of it is. Now, obviously, whenever something gets farther away, it is going to be harder to hit, but they can and do hit. So, the turret tracking and targeting system is pretty accurate, and I do believe it's definitely good enough to hit the player even at a good distance eventually. Now, the player flight controller will be probably one of the last things I do. Basically, I want to have the game actually functioning and the AI able to completely fight each other in a round before I start working on the ships for the player and putting the player into the scene and building out all the game mechanics around how the player will interact in the battle with all the AI ships. But yeah, when it comes to having so many ships in a scene, especially given the fact that my ships have an incredibly sophisticated pathfinding system that's physics based, and I designed it from scratch. Everything you see here, including the waypoint indicators system that's all integrated, I built from scratch. Nothing that you see here is anything from the asset store on Unity. And I can tell you right now, this it would never work anyway. Like this waypoint indicator system, I have several that I purchased from the asset store, and they're really, I mean, they're okay, I guess, if you're building like a little traditional terrain based game or something. But something of the scale and magnitude of this, what I'm building, everything has to be custom designed and built properly, or it will not function. It will bog down the CPU. We're gonna see. Right now, it's not graphics; it's using the performance. As you can see, I'm still running 142 frames per second with 650 projectiles, plus all the ships, plus all the sprite renderers turned on the thrusters, plus all the particle effects, all the turret tracking systems, and all the targeting systems and all the pathfinding systems for every single one of these ships is also running. And I'm still hitting a pretty good frame rate. So performance is actually really good at the moment. I'm really happy with it. Because, like I said, most of these ships are not going to have turrets. They will have forward firing weapons that won't fire quite as often. And so you won't have such a high projectile count in the scene all the time like you have right now. This is just kind of a worst case scenario stress test to make sure that I can build the game I want to build uh, in this game engine, which is basically the most important thing you can do when you're building a game. You want to make sure that you can actually build it before you spend any more time on any more of the components, right? So in my next video, I'm kind of keen to show you guys the pathfinding system I built. They can navigate around each other, and they are doing so right now. They are not using any of the flight behavior profiles. It's actually a complicated system because when it's not using a pathfinding system to navigate around something, it uses a navigation profile and a flight behavior profile system, which is assigned to the AI. And the flight behavior profile system is what will deploy flight maneuvers. So in this game, ships will actually use maneuvers to attempt to get around, to evade opponents. They won't just fly in the same circle or a random circle. They will deploy maneuvers, tactics. And all the different maneuvers obviously will be pre-set up by me. And be deployed by the AI depending on the circumstance. And later on, there will be things like afterburners. I'm going to be giving the ship some things that will create situations that create a level of difficulty for the player that will allow the AI ships to actually be able to utilize those combat maneuvers to be able to get around a player and get behind them. Okay. And a lot of ships will in this game will also have rear firing turrets as well. So, uh, like in a lot of space games, it's super easy. To get behind a ship and just keep hitting it. I don't want that to happen in this game. I want there to always be a certain level of difficulty. So if you get behind a ship that has a rear firing turret, it's going to be shooting at you, and you're going to have to be trying to dodge that incoming fire while you're trying to take that ship out as well. So you see a lot of explosions going on when the projectiles do hit. What you're seeing is a sprite sheet renderer. I've decided that I'm going to do actual particle effects near the player. If a hit happens within the view of the player, which is basically any of the 20 nearest targets, you'll see actual, particle effects. Anything in the distance is going to use uh, a sprite sheet renderer particle effect to cut down on performance use. And some things I'm going to be adding is I'm going to be adding lasers. Okay. As far as the turret weapons types, those are the next things on my list of things to do is to finish out the weapon systems for the turrets and for forward firing weapons, which is just a single line directional weapon. Now there will be lasers. There will be energy weapons that will apply physics forces to the ships, such as a gravity or a tractor beam weapon that can basically push ships, throw them around, and damage them using energy. Like a shockwave cannon, for example, is a good one. I remember back in one of the X series games, they had a shockwave cannon weapon, and I really enjoyed that. And I would like to recreate something similar to that in this game as well. The only difference is in their game, they didn't actually apply physics forces to the ship, which I want to actually do when you get hit with the shockwave cannon. I want to have the full physics simulation with when that weapon is used, not just the ship take damage. So, yeah, I need to do lasers on the turrets. I need to do forward firing directional weapons, which would work on both the small craft and large capital ships. If you have like mega beams or something coming out of the capital ship, um, and then also missile systems would be the last thing that's on my bucket list is missiles. And I'm going to go ahead and build some more projectile weapons, some rapid fire machine guns that will act as point defense. There will be point defense turrets. Uh, there will be artillery turrets. There'll be short and medium range style of turrets. And then I already have the systems integrated right now on the turret system for uh, different types of ammunition, which I call a weapon cache. The weapon cache system is actually what controls the caching of the projectiles, because none of these projectiles are actually being instantiated in the scene. They start already created in a cached prefab container, and then they're recycled without instantiating them, which saves a lot of performance. Anyway, that's just complicated back in mumbo jumbo. But yeah, probably a couple of videos from now, I'll go ahead and throw some asteroids in here and show you that my pathfinding system can actually navigate complex moving obstacles, such as rotating large asteroids with complex terrain. And they can definitely not only navigate it, but they can find their target very well through a dense obstacle course, which is going to be extremely fun and exciting to play later on down the line once I have the player flight controller. And on a side note, which I spend a lot of time on this, is it can do it with a lot of ships without bogging down the CPU too much and still maintaining high performance. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. People that still been a subscriber after these 2 years I set this channel up, you know, didn't expect to come back, but I am working full time on this game now, and I have some money saved up that is going to allow me to focus on building this game and getting this prototype out as quickly as I possibly can. My main focus is going to be on getting the space action combat shooter part of the game completed, okay, before I start the board game aspects, which will mostly take place in a UI scope, basically the scope of a UI. It's basically a board game, so it's going to be 2D. And then whenever you engage in battles, everything would be spawned into this game. Basically, it's basically converting a 2D board game into the 3D space when battles occur in the board game. Anyways, thanks for watching. I will post a video very soon, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one, guys.